All India ranked 41 in final CA, All India ranked 50 in IPCC, MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, and starting his professional career in an IB firm. Couldn't have been a better profile than this, right? With all these achievements, you'd expect this person to be high on ego. However, he's as humble as one can get. Someone who has been a distant but still a great source of inspiration for me. Thanks, Udit, for joining and agreeing to do this. There's a lot for us to learn from you.
Thanks a lot, Arshad, for the warm welcome and your kind words. It's been great knowing you, and it's great that you're trying to help out the CA aspirants in whatever way you can. And glad to be here and contribute what I can.
Great. So let us jump straight into the conversation, Udit. Can we start with you giving us a glimpse of your academic background so far?
Yeah, so I pursued commerce after 10th. I have done my BCom from NM College, Mumbai University. I also pursued my Chartered Accountancy alongside it. And after completing my CA, I directly appeared for CAT, post which I got into the MBA program at IIM Ahmedabad. I've just completed my 2 years MBA program there, and now I'll be joining the corporate world with an IT firm.
Okay, great. So let us stay on the rank bit for a while. Udit, can you help us decode your mindset? What actually goes inside the mind of a ranker, and what there'll be 2 to 3 things which would have enabled you or helped you secure a rank at both of those levels to be this consistent. So highlight a few of those things.
Yes. So first of all, from my personal mindset, I wasn't someone who had dreamt of or aimed for a rank at either of the levels. My aim was to perform to the best of my ability, whatever I could. So my efforts were concentrated towards that. So my aim actually was I wanted to crack CA, do my best in the first attempt if possible. So the rank was a kind of an icing on the cake. I think what helped me secure those ranks was being consistent over the period of 2 or 3 years. So we know like CAs, you have 2 or 3 years to study and prepare for the final CA exam. So it tends to be a very long stretched out period where you also have your articleship going on simultaneously. So being consistent with your studies, I think, is very important. And by consistent, I also mean not wearing yourself out over this 2 years period, because in the last 5 or 6 months, you have to give that extra push. So I think being consistent, planning it well in advance was something which helped me, is what I felt.
Right. And what are a few learnings or mistakes which you learned during your journey, which maybe other students can learn from and not repeat them, which will help them stay on the right path to at least secure a rank, if not guarantee one?
Sure. So one thing, I'll come back on the planning aspect. So scheduling and planning your studies and how you want to go about it is very important. You need to recognize your strengths, because it is a mix of theory as well as practical, where you are solving problems in, say, SFM, accounts, advanced accounting, costing. So, you need to identify your strengths, where it lies, identify where your weaknesses lie, try to work on those aspects as well. So, and also you also need to be realistic with your plans. And when I talk about planning, there are a lot of people who ask me this question about how many hours do you put in for final CA, and a standard answer which I give is you cannot have a standard number of hours which everyone has to put in. People have different grasping powers. I used to take a bit longer while reading text as compared to others. So probably I might have had to put in more number of hours. Somebody else is quick in grasping it. Somebody, like, just through a single read, they are comfortable with what they have read. They like remember it pretty well. So I think your target should be in terms of how do you want to proceed with the portion aspect or cover the syllabus, rather than giving a set number of hours. Another thing, probably a mistake which can be avoided, is changing reference books at the last moment. So I've seen a lot of people, a lot of people are referring to some particular, say, X reference book, and during the study leave period, they tend to deviate from what they have been referring to earlier. Rather than that, I would suggest that you be comfortable with what you have been reading right from the front. It is more important to, be comfortable with the concepts. All of them are going to explain it to you in some way or the other. If you're comfortable with what you have been reading, I would suggest stick to it.
Right. Okay. Valuable learning experiences there. Udit, if we can move on from your academics to your articleship experience. If you could just elaborate on whether it was a mid-sized firm, Big Four, and what sort of areas did you get exposure in?
Sure. So I did my articleship with Kimji Kuaji and Company, which is a mid-sized audit firm at the top tier mid-sized firm. And I was at their statutory audit department. And as far as my experience during the 3-year period goes, it varies across sectors. Like I've done statutory audit of manufacturing companies and also of banking companies. So it was a different, different experience in both these industries. It was a wider range, and the experience was good. So another question which I always get over here is why a mid-sized firm and why not a Big Four? Because I did have an IPCC rank, so there is a tendency of people to gravitate towards Big Four companies. So I had spoken to a lot of people earlier, and from my understanding, I wanted to have a better understanding of a wider range of industries. And when I spoke to people in the Big Four, I got mixed reviews. A few people had got such an experience. A few people were confined to a particular industry. So I took that call that I would possibly, try to get that wider range of experience by staying at a mid-sized firm and going into a more of the intricacies aspect. And when I actually worked during my articleship period, I think I did get that. Like during the initial assignments, I was doing the basic execution work and going ahead as even given more responsibility, leading assignments. So I think my purpose of choosing a mid-sized firm was actually, it served the purpose.
Okay, and were there any backfires of not doing your articleship from a Big Four despite securing a rank, or did your purpose serve you well?
So no, like even going ahead, like when I pursued my MBA, or even right now when I was looking at final placements and job offers, nowhere did I feel that me not doing my articleship in a Big Four affected my chances anywhere. Because what I have understood, what recruiters look for is whatever work you have done, wherever you have worked at, did you excel? Did you really understand it well? Like, were you enough about it? Were you trying to put in your efforts to learn about it? Have you a good hold on it? So if you have a good hold on it, wherever you have worked, I think it's not going to matter a lot. You should try to bring that out, that you are comfortable with the areas where you have worked in, and you are putting in an effort to excel in those areas.
Absolutely. Okay, great. So Udit, moving on to the question which actually matters here the most. Once you completed your qualification, once you completed your chartered accountancy, why go for an MBA? Because at this particular point of time, you did not have any work ex. So why go for an MBA as a fresher? Was it a better option to maybe take some work ex and then go for an MBA? So please, if you can have your say on that.
Sure. So first of all, why I wanted to pursue an MBA, there's a twofold reason which I had. Like there were two reasons I had in mind. One was the desired career path which I wanted to choose, which was either to get into an IBP sort of role or management consultancy, which was not crystal clear at that point of time. But looking at these two roles and talking to people who have actually worked over here, I got an understanding that the firms, especially the top tier firms in these two individual areas, they do prefer candidates who have done an MBA in addition to their professional degree or a bachelor's degree, whatever. So to get into that desired career path, for me, MBA was a must. And apart from that, the second reason was the overall grooming, the overall experience which a B school provides. So obviously, so I got into one of the best B schools in India. So the learning experience was also pretty good. And I think starting my MBA journey was with this mindset that it provides me that network, that kind of peer learning experience, which I was looking for. So I think it was these two reasons combined for which I pursued an MBA. And coming to your second part of the question about the reason for doing it without going for a work-ex and whether a work-ex is preferable. So this is a point where I had to do a lot of brainstorming. I had to talk to a lot of people to understand what is the right path. And the thing is, it is up to you. There are people who do both of these. So even in the my batch, which I saw, There were people who were freshers who came in without a proper work experience, and there were people who had a 2-3 years or even more work experience after which they were doing an MBA. Indian B schools do not stress a lot on the requirement of work ex as compared to foreign B schools which do so. So you have that opportunity because what they expect is even freshers bring in a different, very fresh mindset, a very fresh perspective to problem solving, rather than people who have been working in organizations and who have whose thoughts have been possibly molded by a particular way the organization looks at problems. So, and another reason for me going in without work ex was, for me, I was in a phase where I was, doing well academically. So I wanted to complete that that chain of thoughts, that chain which I was following. I wanted to complete it there because it often gets difficult to, after you've joined a corporate job or a corporate world, to come back to academics. So I felt I was doing well then, and I could possibly have stretched more on that and completed my MBA. So that was my reason for going in without a work ex. So if people want to make a choice between going in with work ex or without work ex, I would say you need to look at 2 or 3 things. One, your desired career path, whether an MBA helps you add value to that. If not, then possibly you can put those 2 years into whatever idea you have or whatever current work place you are working at, or wherever you want to be. You can utilize that towards that aspect.
Right. So at the end of the day, it would be a personal choice. What are your goals? And you have to consider what fits you the best. Right. Absolutely. Okay. So now, Udit, moving on to your preparation for CAT. So how is it that you actually prepare for CAT? And secondly, what is the ideal target score which everybody should have in mind to be able to, crack those Holy Trinity V schools A, B, C?
Yeah. So my CAT prep was a kind of a sprint as opposed to CA, which was like a marathon, a long 2.5 year prep. Because I got my CA results in say around July 18, and November 18 was the CAT exam. So I just had a period of around 2.5 to 3 months to prepare for it. So there are 3 sections to it. There's quants, there is DILR, and there is verbal section. So again, the point about strengths and weaknesses, which I mentioned earlier, came in very handy during my CAT prep, because you have to obviously do well across these 3 sections. But while you're preparing, you have to identify where I'm more comfortable. You have to work on that so that you stretch, you get a really good score in that section. And also where you're weak, you have to ensure that you do not perform bad, because you need to be consistent across these 3 sections to get a good CAT score and secure interview calls from the top B schools, because they have individual cutoffs as well. So the prep, one question which I received regarding the prep is whether classes are necessary for CAT. So I had enrolled for classes, and where I felt the classes added value was about improving my speed. They tell you how to take those shortcuts, because CAT is like a 2.5-3 hour exam wherein you need to solve as many questions as you can. So in improving my speed, the reference material that they provided, it gave me a lot of practice. And one of the most important things about my CAT preparations was taking the mock exams. So the mock tests are basically a replica of how the CAT exam is, with differing levels of difficulty across sections. So more and more you practice, more and more you get comfortable with the pattern. It gives you more and more practice. And even more important than giving those mock exams was analyzing how you fared, looking at the solution, looking where you went wrong, how they are expecting you to think, how they are expecting you to work out things. So I think preparing for giving those mock exams and analyzing those mock exams was a very important thing, and which helped me a lot in faring well in CAT.
Okay. And on the target percentile part, I mean, what is the ideal percentile one should be looking at if he wants to get into the best of the best B schools?
So I won't give a number to it right now, because I would suggest that you go to each of the site of each of these B schools. All of them have a rank, all of them give weightages to certain parameters. So for example, some B schools would give more importance to your past academic records. obviously CAT gains the highest percentage in each of these B schools. So scoring well in CAT is definitely very important. The reason I say this is your past, let's say your past academic background. IIM Ahmedabad does give a certain weightage to having a diverse academic background, and CS do fall in that category. So, even at a slightly, let's say a 1 percentile less than what compared to what engineers require, you would possibly get into IIM Ahmedabad. So it is possibly, I think, if you look at what kind of weightage is given to what parameters, whether you have a work-ex, how much weightage does it have, it is going to add value. It is not simply the CAT score. So you need to look at that composite whole. So I would say you should try that. But anyhow, if you are looking at the top 3 B schools, you have to try to aim 97, 98 percentile.
All right. So being a CA definitely helps in the diversity criteria. So a percentile margin, maybe you can be better off there as compared to engineers. However, the profile as a whole will definitely matter, and not just the CAT percentile.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And moving on to your interview experience at IIM A. So how was it different from a normal CA corporate job interview?
So possibly when you're going for a CA corporate job interview, you know that you can stay restricted to finance and some current affairs related topics, is what my understanding is, if I'm not wrong. When it comes to IIM interviews, it can be boundaryless. Like they can ask you anything under the sun. You need to know your GK. You need to know things about, possibly as weird as, say, things about what city you live in. They can ask you anything related to that. Also, one more important thing is they try to test the depth of your knowledge. So if you say I'm interested in, say, X and X thing, or let's say I just say I'm interested in cricket, they can go on asking you anything about cricket. They expect you that if you say I'm interested in something, then you are actually passionately following it, and you know things like even quirky, weird things about it. So that is something which they expect. Another thing which also helps in the interviews is if you have a strong mix of academic focus and extracurriculars which you have shown in your past background. They really value it that a person is able to handle and manage both at the same time, because that is something they really value a lot in management, handling multiple things together. So that adds value to it. So, if you're really able to drive your conversation in the interview to something you passionately like about, and you actually impress the interviewer with the kind of knowledge you have regarding that, I think it's added value to that.
Right. Okay, great. And now there you are as a fresher entering IIM A. So if you can just briefly give us what the 2-year program, the curriculum is like, and how was your experience there at the campus, the learnings, the case study sort of study pattern there, and your highlights at IIM A?
So if I were to talk about what the kind of curriculum and how it is structured, it basically tries to give you an overall holistic understanding of how businesses function. And as you mentioned, it is done through the case study approach, which is extremely different from what we studied in our CA curriculum. We were taught concepts, theory directly, and then when we go to, let's say, articleship or we get to work, we are expected to apply that. Over here, how the teaching method is structured is that you learn the concepts from learning about how it has already been applied in past businesses. So you study about businesses through case studies, about how they have, if they want to teach some concept, some theoretical concept or some business strategy, they will show you a case study of how some businesses applied it, and then you gather your learnings from it. So that is why one interesting thing is the professors are not called professors over there. They're called instructors. They help you guide. They just guide you. You have to glean your learnings from that case study. So I think that is something which was pretty different. As far as the experience goes, so IIM Ahmedabad really stresses a lot on academic rigor, and they expect you to give your best in academics. So it does tend to get you have to put in a lot of effort to keep pace. Also, the kind of competition that is there, it also gives you that extra push. You need to be on your toes all the time to do even relatively well over there, not just like do extremely great, but even to do relatively well, you have to put in a lot of extra effort. But having said that, I've also seen like across people, they still try to manage things. They still keep in touch with the sports activities they have been keeping at, any other extracurriculars that they were pursuing earlier. They still manage to, handle it simultaneously with the academic requirements over the 2-year period. So I think that is something which they try to, teach you in the MBA course about time management and multitasking. How do you handle pressure situations? So those were like my key learnings from the 2-year course. And apart from that, obviously the networks that you build, the peer learning, because people from diverse backgrounds, everyone has a different opinion, different perspective to things. So, to stay in that environment, to like accept those different viewpoints and learn from how different people think about one particular aspect. I think those were some highlights from the 2-year course.
Okay. Great. Now coming to your summer internship experience there from IIM Ahmedabad, you had joined Credit Suisse as an IB intern. So if you can briefly, as much as detailed the answer can be, keeping in mind the confidentiality norms, whatever you can tell us about your IB experience, the so-called buzzword IB.
Sure. So one thing, like, again, a question which often pops up is, what does an IB actually do? Like, it is something people really aspire to get into, but what work do you actually get? So what basically an IB does it helps companies raise funds. Let's say it is from the capital markets, the IP through IPOs, through secondary offerings, or through debt markets, or a company looking for a possible acquisition, or a company looking to be acquired, or looking for prospective investors. So we help these companies close these sort of deals, value these companies, and help them through this whole process. That is basically what an IB does in very simple terms. So my experience at IB, like the major learnings, what they expect from a person who is looking to join an IB is you need to have a really good understanding and a really good hold on financial statements, financial understanding, ratios, all of that. All the basic financial aspects that we learn in our CA curriculum, you are expected to have a good hold of it. And apart from that, you're also expected to have a really good knowledge of at least the basics of valuation. So obviously you will be learning on the job, but you need to have these basics. So these are on the technical front. And so I was involved in a research project in the pharmaceutical industry about landscaping the industry as a whole. And I think another thing that they're looking for, which I gathered from my interactions with people, is they're looking for people who are diligent, who really like this kind of work, because you actually have to put in a lot of working hours, which is a known fact for IB. So you need to actually, really love this thing, love the kind of work that is involved, to actually be able to put in those kind of hours. And you need to be proactive in sort of not just getting work, but in understanding how it is done. You have any queries, you be proactive in approaching that. And I think it's not just an IB, this is a requirement in any sort of job profile that you're looking at. This is something which everyone expects. So that was, I think, the gist of my summer internship experience.
Okay. Great, Udit. Thanks a lot. Now, just to let everybody know, you have completed your graduation from IIM and you will be joining another IB firm, which is Avendus. So all the best for that, and hopefully you will have a great career ahead.
Thank you so much for your wishes.